Hi, folks. Welcome to the iWrite Radio videocast stroke podcast. Thursday's edition. I've got Jimmy Hutton and Stewart Lockhead with me. I'm Norrie Stewart. As most people who are political anorexics like us will know, Nicola Sturgeon made a statement today about a plan to come out of lockdown at Holyrood. Unfortunately, the Scottish Government site seems to have crashed and none of us can get a hold of a copy of the actual plan. So we're going to have a breeze over it, a wee chat about it, but we'll go into a bit of the detail, I think, tomorrow. There's not much point picking it apart when we haven't had it in our hands to read it. So, Jimmy, what did you think?
Oh, I thought that the plan itself, the statement was pretty good. The plan itself seems very comprehensive, and there's a lot more to be published. There's an initiative for transport to be published next Tuesday. There's separate sectoral guidelines that they're working on at the moment will be published next week for various parts of industry, a 6-point plan for the construction industry, for example. I thought the whole thing was, it certainly seems a great difference from what Boris cobbled together on the back of a fag packet for England last couple of weeks ago.
I think the other noticeable thing is it seems to be waiting until they've got the test and protect, as the Scottish Government have dubbed it, into place.
Yeah, nothing's happened. And what was clear, she pointed that out because Jackson tried to, when one of his questions, maybe try to catch her a wee bit, but she did say that will be in place before this moves ahead. So in all 14 health board areas, we will have trackers ready to go next week.
Stuart.
Yes, that was a good move by her to come up with a slogan: "Test and protect the system." It's been noticeable for some weeks now that down south they what is it? Test, track and trace. They've been going with this, and the media down there have just accepted this stupid acronym, which it doesn't include isolate. And
well, it's TTI, test, track, isolate.
No, that's in Scotland. What I'm saying is in England it's TTT, test, track and trace, and they don't talk about isolate, and it's longer. And actually, the test and protect system that they're talking about here in Scotland actually includes support as well. If you force people to isolate, they're going to need support.
TTIS, test, trace, isolate, support.
Yeah. Hence the reason she went test and protect. Do we have to spend 5 minutes babbling about acronyms, gentlemen?
Yeah, well, okay. Anyway, it was noticeable that she went down that road, and it ties in. It is the important thing. You can't do your lockdown easing without the testing system
in place.
They run in parallel. She also outlined the things like the phases. She talked about schools. I know it was the date for the schools going back, generally speaking, to the 11th of August.
I think if we kind of leave the detail until we get the paper. Jimmy, you were a bit impressed with Richard Zebedee Lennon today.
Well, for shock horror, Richard Leonard coming up with an interesting question and being on point, but he did point out to her, I'm assuming he's actually seen it, which we've not. So we'll have to take a bit.
I think she gave them early copies.
Have to take it as read eye, but the nighttime economy is very important to Scotland and very important to young people in Scotland, because most of the people that work in the night economy are young. And clearly there's very little in that document about the nighttime economy. So that might be something that we have to return to. But I just wanted to point out, Norrie, because none of us have mentioned it yet, although we did prior to recording, that Nicola made clear she was following the advice of the World Health Organization. And that was just a nice wee back slap at Boris, because I don't think he knows who is.
I don't like the who.
You need to get an owl perched on your shoulder, Jimmy.
I don't like the who, because I don't know who you're talking about. The WHO.
The one thing I did notice talking about performance is Alice Johnson does not perform well when compared with Patrick Harvey. She was a bit all over the place today.
Yeah, she was. It's just kind of, you do wonder why the Greens persist with this sort of dual leadership thing, because Patrick was pretty good yesterday and Alison was absolutely abysmal today. So perhaps the Greens might have to have a wee rethink about that one.
Give the question to Patrick to ask, but put her name on the bottom of it or something.
The First Minister did make 1 or 2 points, though, before we move on. She said we may have to return to lockdown. She also made an admission that she could have been wrong at the start of the epidemic when people were moved from hospital to care homes. But well, we can go into this tomorrow.
I think we'll have to. It'll be headlines in every union.
She also stressed the term asymptomatic testing, which we're all going to hear an awful lot more about. And she finished off by saying to Alison Johnson, who's in Edinburgh MSP, and obviously saw the photographs of Portobello Beach yesterday. She said the First Minister said, when I saw the photographs of Portobello Beach, I felt like crying.
I haven't seen them, but I've been hearing lots of rumours. Let's move on a bit, guys. One of the problems with the situation it is at the moment, as we all remember, Brexit was a way for the government to sneak various powers in under the radar, the Henry VIII powers, etc. Now, the coronavirus pandemic is going to let them do it again. And especially with this trade deal they're trying to put together with America. I've got a clip here of Barry Gardner. You'll have to kind of bear with me, guys, because it's a kind of double click through. But he speaks really well, which is not something you hear me say often about Barry Gardner, but this is him in Parliament.
Speaker.
Barry Gardner.
Madam Deputy Speaker, this trade bill is a bad bill. Bad because it fails to establish a proper framework by which Parliament could scrutinise, ratify and implement all future international trade treaties. Bad because it sets out to create one of the weakest trade remedy authorities anywhere in the world. Bad because it pretends this bill is necessary to roll over existing agreements we have with third countries through the EU. So necessary, indeed, that the Minister will have great difficulty when he sums up in explaining how the government has already managed to roll over the majority of them before this bill is passed into law. This is legislative prestidigitation of the highest order. The government says it needs the bill in order to do that which it proudly boasts it's already succeeded in doing without it.
Prestidigitation.
Legislative prestidigitation. I think. What?
Spit out, mate.
I know there was legislative and gestation, but there was something in between.
Prestidigitation.
Prestidigitation.
Now, the point really about this is this bill, this trade deal, is looking so like the one the EU rejected with America. They want secret courts, which are basically American courts run by American businesses, to be able to sue the British government should it introduce legislation that impacts on any part of the trade deal.
Well, even worse, mate, if it's stuff we bring in that might impact upon their future profits, which is ludicrous.
It's mad.
Future profits for an American company could disappear overnight if Donald Trump tweets that they're a shower of useless bastards. But they can take the British government to court if the British government agrees with Donald Trump's tweet.
Well,
it's nonsense.
Effectively, the deal was it TTIP it was called?
Aye, TTIP.
With the EU. And my memory of it was there was an Irish MEP who wanted to have a look at the agreement. And he had to go into the basement of some building, give up his phone, any recording devices. He was allowed a pencil and a piece of paper to make notes, and go into a guarded room to look at the agreement.
That rings bells. Definitely
was,
rings bells.
It was supposed to be, this is democracy. They weren't given copies of it, and then they were surprised when it was rejected.
One of the big issues there, mate, and clearly this British one's exactly the same, is that it's written by corporations. They didn't want legislators getting anywhere near it, because legislators will take one look at what the corporations have written, see what it is, and just go toss the whole thing in the bin.
Well, this again ties in with what happened this week in Parliament when every Scottish MP voted against an amendment to protect British farming standards.
Except the 6 Scottish Tory MPs.
They voted against it. They voted against the amendment.
Well, you said every Scottish MP. What you meant every Scottish Tory MP?
Tory MP, sorry.
That's all right. We'll let you off.
So this is the start of them breaking promises that they were still making in December last year about animal welfare and food standards. Oh, there'll be no chlorinated chicken in the UK. Well, there will be chlorinated chicken in the UK after the government is being sued for trying to stop it coming in.
Right, well, it's worthwhile saying that it's not a moral or ethical issue for farmers. British farmers have invested heavily in high ethical and moral equipment standards across their, that's how they produce food. And they'll be undercut by American producers who produce food at lower standards.
And let's be honest, mate, British farmers produce food in that manner because it's what British consumers demand. We demand decent animal husbandry in this country, and we demand decent food standards. And the government is signing that all away because the Yanks didn't want to meet those standards.
Well, one of the things that we're really going to have to watch out for is how food is going to be labelled after this agreement, because it may not even be possible to identify American imports.
Well, don't forget, there was a period in not that far back in history when the Animal Liberation Front were regarded as terrorists. They did, in fact, do some fairly dramatic, violent acts. I think, did they not actually kidnap people and things?
Yeah.
They set fire to a hell of a lot of kit, mate. They kind of were terrorists in that regard.
But they will be, and they'll be back if they see they'll be back in action.
Well, our problem has to be, how do we get this? Because it's not in the papers today.
Aye, that's the problem. It's all getting slipped away under cover of COVID.
Where am I going? That's the Spectator today. Back to Brexit. And they're going to love this.
Well, that's what you get for reading the Spectator, mate.
Oh, I've listened to their podcast as well. You've got to know what the opposition are up to.
I just go to the Bampot Unionist sites on Facebook and Twitter, mate. You can find out all the tinfoil wearing bobbags. They're quite plain about what they're up to. Well,
as I say, I do think it's incumbent upon us, the freedom fighters of Leith, to keep this front and centre, because it is going to get ignored.
Oh, dear.
And as you've already said, Jimmy, with an 80% majority, an 80-seat majority, there's going to be nothing done about it in Parliament. It's going to get waved through.
Aye, it'll sail through. And what's even worse, Barry Gardiner later in that speech, because I watched it all this morning, mate, and they've actually taken to themselves powers within Parliament where something will be presented.
Right, yeah.
Aye, and if there's no objections to it, parliamentary objection to it within 21 days, it's waved through, so Parliament doesn't even discuss it. The problem being that the government sets parliamentary business, so if they want something through and they want to make sure that there's no discussion of it, they won't put it on the order paper.
They simply won't give you debate time, which, I mean, the tactics of that is you force the opposition to use up their debate time.
To use up their time to try and cover or to try and stop the worst excesses of parliamentary abuse by the government.
It's quite funny. I had this discussion with somebody once about it's really worth trying to understand the tactics that can be used. People scream and shout about, why was this never debated? Well, the government didn't want it debated. They control the business schedule. The few occasions the opposition get to insist on debates, it depends on priorities, because you can't just discuss everything from the opposition. You only have a limited access to the floor.
You've got, it's essentially what you have, the parliamentary system in this country is an elective dictatorship.
Yeah.
Once you've got the majority, especially a majority of 80 seats, they can do anything they want.
It'll
It kind
be-
of feeds into Peter Bell's piece this morning, and a wonderful quote, and I'm going to be able to do it verbatim off the top of my head because I just can't remember it, but he was basically having a pop at people like Pete Wishart, saying, if you want to sit under Britannia's arse, don't be surprised if she shits on you.
That's a lovely quote. No, you're right. In the end, it was one of Peter Bell's, well, he's been writing an awful lot lately, but this one was slightly different to what he's normally complaining about. But he was saying we should pull out, the MPs should pull out of Westminster, and he gave a very good case, made a very good case for it. And in fact, I've sent the article to Deirdre, our local MP, but I want her to comment on it.
Be interested to see what our comment is, mate.
I've got a clip of Stella Creasy. This is about Rees Mogg, who is in charge of. What is he in charge of?
He's leader of the House. He's in charge of parliamentary business, isn't he?
Yeah, the business manager. That's what he decides what happens.
And I would suggest that for political reasons, he wants everybody back in Parliament, sitting elbow to elbow. Jimmy, you had a point to make about that regarding Boris needing support.
Well, he needs people to be shouting Keir Starmer down. He needs his wee fan section at the back making other daft noises and what have you, because he's been absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it was actually quite funny yesterday when you got Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House, asking the Health Secretary if he wanted to beat it out of the House, if he wanted to leave, because he was just haranguing Keir Starmer.
He was
the front bench was empty.
He was entirely on his own. Instead of having them all lined up, and all these arse-licking MPs barracking the Labour Party and barracking Keir Starmer, it was just Tony Hancock.
It's a bit of a rock and a hard place decision for Scottish MPs.
What about pulling out?
Well, no.
Well, it's not
about whether they travel to Westminster.
Well, there's a whole case about going all the way to Westminster, picking up the virus. Don't forget, it looks very unsafe in the House of Commons, let alone Westminster and London. Compared to here in Scotland, it's a different world down there about virus passing, and bringing that back to all the remote parts of Scotland. I don't think they'll want to do that.
Well, they're basically being forced by Rees Mogg as leader of the House to disobey the present lockdown rules in Scotland.
Well, that's
what it is.
Yeah, well, that's fair. You know
and if he takes away their remote access to Westminster,
which he has,
they can't be there to represent their constituents.
Well, that's the point. At that point, they should just withdraw completely.
Well, if you let me finish, that allows the unionist press to attack the SNP for not attending if they choose not to attend. So the headlines are already written. It's pure politics.
Yeah, well, maybe he's trying to push a 1920s scenario into the 2020s. The problem is, it didn't work 100 years ago. And to be honest, I think given what the SNP have to offer Scots, I think a lot of Scots would be quite happy if the SNP turned around and says, "Come on, stick your Parliament up here."
Well, here's just so everybody understands, this isn't just the SNP that have got a problem with it. Here's Stella Creasy of the Labour Party having a pop at Jacob Rees-Mogg's, if I can find it. Wait a minute.
Come on, Stella.
Responsibilities. I know he's not a fan of the nanny state, but not all of us have nannies.
I take it you didn't get that, guys, did you?
Yeah.
I got it, mate, aye.
Oh, good.
He's not a fan of the nanny state because we haven't all got nannies.
I think I made a bit of a duck's arts of that.
A duck's what? Surely not.
Anyway, Stella Creasy wasn't happy because she doesn't have a nanny or childcare or whatever. Has she not just recently had a kid, Stella Creasy?
She has, and Stella's all right, mate. Stella's a London MP, but when you are all these new Tories in the mind that they got into these northeast seats with the old red wall that they broke down and all that, do they want to be travelling 250, 300 miles to London to jump on a tube train when they get out at King's Cross or what have you to get across the West?
Oh, no, they'll not get in a tube train. They'll get in a taxi.
Jimmy, these people are Tories. They don't care about anything but getting the working class back to the grindstone to generate profits for the capitalists that vote for them. I'm sorry, did I give away my political position there?
You might have. I think the devil's advocate jumped off his fence for a moment.
You know, it's strange. It's something else we were talking about 5 minutes ago about talking about Leith, and I just remembered that when Norrie and I were quite active, we were part of a group that stopped a recycling or what was it? The place behind the pond. What were they going to do? They'd take all the rubbish from Edinburgh there and stick it in trains.
And take it down to somewhere else, which was, you know, I didn't have a problem with that.
We campaigned to get that stopped, and that got stopped. And then there was another one. They were going to put in a biomass, they called it a biomass generator, a power station burning wood instead of coal. And we managed to get that stopped and all. See, we were quite active, Jimmy.
I'm not claiming any credit for either one of those, I have to be honest. Another friend of ours chaired that meeting. He was very good. Wouldn't he let anybody that didn't agree with us speak? Such is democracy. Talking about not letting people speak, I see Open Democracy has been banned from asking questions at the daily press briefing.
What, at number 10?
Yeah, the guy, what's his name? James Cusick. He's actually...
Oh, right, he's been around forever.
Yeah, he's a lobby journalist. He's in with the bricks. And he's been told, or whoever runs somebody runs a group who chooses who gets to ask questions.
Ah, Dominic Cummings.
No, this is on the journalistic side.
Oh.
I think it might even be the lobby group itself. Mm-hmm. But she was told that Open Democracy were no longer being allowed to ask questions because they were a campaigning organisation, not a journalistic organisation, according to 10 Downing Street.
I wonder what Craig Murray thinks about that.
Well, I mean, they're still not turning up on Newsnight. They will not put anybody onto Newsnight for questioning.
Anyway, shall we talk about Craig Murray and the corruption of our justice system in Scotland?
Okay.
Why not? I see he's got a court date of the 10th of June.
And he's published documents that he says are completely full of mistakes and bits missing. It's fairly interesting. It's scary at the moment. We have a situation where we call it the Salmond affair. It would appear that if you're a journalist that supported Alex Salmond, you're being under constant pressure from the police and the prosecution and the justice system in Scotland. On the other hand, if you are part of the support mechanism of journalists and possibly civil servants that wanted Alex Salmond convicted, they're getting away with exposing the names of the people. Okay, I'm trying to be careful here. Jigsaw exposure of some of the complainants in the Salmond trial.
Yeah,
they are not being prosecuted. So it seems to be, to me, it's corrupt. We live in a corrupt country at the moment. I'm ashamed to say.
It certainly has the appearance of corruption. And Craig's, the documents that he published where there are missing paragraphs, and those missing paragraphs, he contends, contain tweets that he never sent, and that it's those tweets that he's been prosecuted for. That certainly smacks of corruption. And if it was coming out of a East European state, for example, or a South American state, our media would be absolutely all bloody over it. But because it's coming out of the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service and the courts, they're saying not a thing.
Well, that's it. On the screen at the moment, there's two, well, in that case, there's 54, 55 missing
Aye.
From the document, and there's another area where there's one missing.
And he's quite right.
I mean,
the High Court judge that signed that document that got delivered to him, arraigning him and telling him to come to court, and the High Court judge has signed that with parts of it not there, which is just scandalous.
And he makes a very good point. I mean, contempt of court is very rarely, actually, contempt of court very rarely arrives in the court.
And it's not going to be a jury trial either.
No,
Right.
it never is. Contempt of court is always in
Three
front of
judges.
judges. Yeah, it's always in front of judges.
Well, that's an odd one. That's an odd one in and of itself, though. His first hearing's going to have 3 judges. Apparently, that never happens. Apparently, it's 1 judge for the first hearing. Three judges in an appeal court.
And closely connected to this situation is Stewart Campbell, Wings Over Scotland, has now written to, he wrote to the Lord Advocate, complaining, he actually made a complaint to the police, to the Crown Office, the Procurator Fiscal, that certain journalists have revealed the identity of at least one of the complainants in the Salmond trial, and no action has been taken. And now he's written to the Hamza Yusuf, the Justice Minister, who's passed it back down to the Lord Advocate. I mean, it stinks.
Well, the big problem here though is that they can't introduce the fact, for Craig Murray's trial. I don't think they're allowed to introduce the fact that other journalists have done the same or worse. That's no defence. So the Craig Murray stands alone. It's a societal problem getting the journalists who also revealed the accusers' names, or revealed a route to the accusers' names, might be a better way to put it, into court. That's the advocate, the Lord Advocate's decision, the Crown Office decision, whether to prosecute or not.
Don't we sit don't we sit in that horrible position where first they came for the journalists, then they came for the trade unionists, then they came from the gypsies, and then they came for the Jews, and then they came for me.
You missed a bit. They came for the Jews and I did nothing.
Maybe a tad hyperbolic.
This actually worries me quite a lot, because it's now in the public domain that the supporters, shall we say, of Salmond are the ones that are being pursued here. If they continue not to pursue, to ignore the mainstream journalists that were as guilty,
that have committed a similar, if not the same offence.
If Craig Murray gets found guilty, or Mike Hurst, is it? Mark Hurst get found guilty, and they don't go after the journalists from our, if you like, mainstream media, we have a real problem. That's when the problem arises. I mean, we don't know. For all we know, Danny Garvelli is being talked to by the police right now, because she isn't going to splash it all over the paper. Whereas Craig Murray sees advantage in letting everybody know.
Let's be clear. She'll not be getting spoken to by anybody because she's got a free pass.
Yeah,
is it her husband's best man that actually works in the Crown Office?
Well, that's when it becomes a problem.
Aye.
If Craig Murray gets found not guilty, and Mark Hurst gets found not guilty, it's not a problem, because then why pursue everybody else? It then gets swept under the carpet.
But
damage is done by the accusations that have been made, certainly, just as with Alex Salmond. So does it then become the method by which they attack people who support Salmond? Doesn't matter if they get found guilty or not. Doesn't matter. What matters is that they've been accused, and that accusation allows people to undermine them.
It also costs them a bloody fortune. How much does it cost you to go to the High Court to defend yourself? It's
No,
cheap.
it costs us a bloody fortune, Jimmy.
Huh.
It's our money.
Taxpayers' money, innit?
Aye, but
not their money.
It's no taxpayers' money that Craig Murray's using to defend himself, is it?
No, but that's the point.
Isn't that a criminal charge?
The Crown Office gets to use our money to do it. Craig Murray needs to find his own funds to defend himself.
Well, we said this a couple of weeks ago. We need to know who leads the salmon team. Who's the top copper? It's obviously not the chief constable, but who's the chief superintendent or whatever rank he is that's leading that team? Because it's clearly them that's pushed for Murray to be prosecuted. It's clearly the defence advocate, the prosecutor who failed to get a conviction against Salmond who's behind this. And who's his boss? Who's the one at the Crown Office who's pushing for all of this? Does it go as high as the Lord Advocate, or is it political?
Well, it would appear that the principal secretary, in other words, the top civil servant in Scotland, Leslie Evans, her name's been bandied around today as well. She's back in the frame. I don't know what she's in the frame for, but her name, she's the top civil servant.
Here's a problem.
But she
courts are protecting the identities of the women that made the accusations. We therefore don't know, as members of the public, whether any of these women is in a position to influence the decisions being made by the police and the Crown Office. We don't know what positions they hold. And I have purposely not gone looking. I'm quite sure this afternoon I could find out half a dozen of these names. I'm quite sure I could, but as I've stated here before, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to make a slip and reveal one of the names.
I don't know any names, none at all.
I'm keeping that way until such time as it becomes public knowledge.
Yeah, you're probably as well to do that, mate. Unfortunately, somebody let one of the names slip to me about a week ago, and I'm raging about it, so I'm quite happy. You're quite better off not knowing, trust me.
Well, the position that I'm reconsidering my position on this, because I'm beginning to wonder, I mean, these women were civil servants. Could they possibly have any influence on the decisions regarding Craig Murray and Mark Hurst? I don't know. How can I know? If that comes out and they're in a position where they could influence them, well, I hope somebody's taken somebody from the other side to court.
I've got to sit here and say nothing at this point, mate.
It is a problem, and it's not going to go away. And I would add that the SNP did make a good decision when they didn't take Craig Murray on as an MP or a prospective MP.
You're probably right on that one.
He would have been a firebrand, but a loose cannon does not cover what he could have done.
He would have cleared the decks in 5 minutes flat, never mind a loose cannon.
Stewart.
Nothing. I thought I'll save it to the last, whatever we're going to wind up with.
Well, we're kind of there, are we not?
Well, I can recommend the Wee Ginger Doug again yesterday. He's writing nearly every day, although Jimmy's right, he uses too many words. But again, he was on the button yesterday. I forget what it's about. Paul Kavanagh is his real name. In case you're put off by someone, he's not hiding his real name, Paul Kavanagh.
He writes for the National as well, of course.
He writes for the National. He's involved
in podcast as well. Sometimes
he's a backer of Doon the Rabbit Hole annual music festival.
As is Craig Murray.
Or is it Craig Murray? I thought it was
Craig Murray's son. Is one of the organisers.
Oh well, I've got him wrong. Got him muddled. Sorry about that.
Great wee festival, by the way. I've been a couple of times. Good fun.
Very good.
Right, book up for next year.
I won't be camping, Jimmy. I might go for the day, but I had my bad back last time and I was crawling through the grass, not due to drink, I may add.
You'll need to go in a motorhome, a luxury motorhome.
If I had a motorhome, I would consider it.
Surely you'll not be able to take a motorhome north of Stirling for about 18 months. The locals will be with pitchforks covering the tyres of the things.
pitchforks and catapults.
I don't know if you've noticed that there's a big row going on over in the west, in the Clyde, about the parking cruise ships there. There's not a whisper here in the Forth. There's 3 Fred Olsen cruise ships anchored out in the bay. There's 2 enormous drilling ships in Leith docks and 2 huge P&O ferries in Leith docks. Nobody's given an argument about that.
The Ouija's are just moaning because it's like somebody hanging cakes in front of a fat person's eyes. They never get on a bloody cruise ship. The only thing they can do is go down the water at Ross and then they get sent home again.
That's a good day out, by the way, Jimmy. I've done the water one. That's a lovely day. It's not a problem.
People on this side of the
isolated on the boat.
People on the east coast are sophisticated, mate. We might actually have the option to go on a cruise ship and not get tossed off it within 5 seconds of being there.
What I really like about the cruise ships that come into Leith is they immediately put everybody on buses and take them up to the castle.
Up to
Princess Street. They didn't let them wander about Leith.
They take them to the Edinburgh Woolen Mill in Bangor Road.
All right, which is again nowhere near where real people wander about Leith.
Aye, mate, Norrie, let's not start talking about cruising in Leith, son. You're on a sugly wicket there, boy.
Those days are gone, mate.
Oh, have you heard? have you heard? Apparently, Leith and Leith Walk, in particular, the wards, the council wards of Leith Walk, are the most dangerous place in Scotland for catching the coronavirus.
No, they're no.
No, they're not. Where's the most dangerous?
It was all places like Inverclyde and stuff through the west, mate. Leith, in particular, the Leith Walk ward was the only one in the east coast of Scotland. Only one on this side of the country. It's actually a nice bit of work. It's worth a look. There's a map showing you.
Send us the link.
Aye, it's a decent bit of work, but it really it doesn't take into account any of the current data.
That's right. It's based
on a data set that's specifically based on things like your population and deprivation within that population.
And the health issues that people have and the age, and also the fact that Leith Walk, particularly between Leith Walk and Easter Road, is a very densely populated part of the city.
It used to be the most densely populated area in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it still applies, but it used to be. And there's actually quite a lot of green in there. You've got all those wee parks that run from Albert Street down. Sorry, folks, we're getting parochial.
They're no green.
As well, it used to be green. They're a bit muddy now.
I've been very parochial today.
Aye.
Mm-hmm. Anybody got anything they'd like to finish with?
Not today.
And silence was the name. Anyway, we'll get a read of the government's out of lockdown strategy paper when we can get on the site and download it, and maybe have a chat about that tomorrow. But till then, thanks Jimmy Hutton, thanks Stuart Lockhead. I'm Norrie Stewart.
Thank
you for watching and listening, folks, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow, Friday tomorrow. Oh, great, we'll not be able to go out for a pint again.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers, folks.
Thanks for that, Nort.